modern person living a modern life. It is a fast life, full of complex technology. I can access the knowledge of generations on the internet in merely seconds. One could say I am living in an enlightened world. Humans today are no longer primitive cave dwellers, dependent on fire or the sun as the only light sources. But is that really true? Are we really that different today? Maybe the answer to that can be found in some unexpected places. Green and brown colors below, ever-changing hues of grayish-blue above. In all reality, time doesn't play a role, as we have so much of it. A pile of stones on a small clearing. It is a quiet place, a bit hidden in the landscape. Yet many visitors follow these small signs to see such a hunebed. And there are a lot of these places all around the northern regions. But what makes these boulders so special? I decided to go on a little journey and take a closer look. Nearly all the Hunebedden are located between Emmen and Groningen in the northern Netherlands, along the highway N34, which got its name, Hunebed Highway, from the monuments. The biggest of these Hunebedden can be found and visited in Borger. There, visitors can learn everything about the history around the monument and its builders, inside the Hunebed-centrum. It is worth the visit for young and old, as you are able to experience what life during earlier times might have felt like. With a few new insights, I stepped outside to see the huge Hunebed D27 from up close. D27 is a so-called passage grave, which means that it has an elongated shape and a separate entrance at one of the long sides, in this case at the south. But there can be found different kinds of graves in the Netherlands, specified by their structure. They have been built approximately 5,000 years ago, and once have been covered with earth mounds. For me, it is strange to imagine that these stones have stood here for thousands of years. It makes me wonder what they have experienced during all that time. We have witnessed the world around us transform, at times with lush green, then less, finally replaced by other shapes of land, brown fields and vast clusters of identical plants. And as time moved on, so did the land, stirred by motion, even though less animals seemed to live here. Huts arose, then houses, then long grey ribbons of stone and tar cut the landscape into pieces. And recently, the world has become inhabited by lifeless, yet moving, metal boxes and automatons. But one constant endures, below the cold and steady ground. Above the skies, sometimes with rain, sometimes snow, sometimes storm or warm sun. For a long time, it wasn't really clear who built the Hunebedden and why, which led to various theories about their origin in the folklore. The Dutch name Hunebed itself is a good example for that. While the English term is dolmen or megalithic grave, referring to the large stones used in their construction, the word Hunebed derives from the words for giant and bed, implying that at some point in history, people must have imagined that giants built and used these structures. This belief was based on the common misconception that people in earlier times couldn't have moved such large boulders without modern technology, which is clearly wrong and fortunately has been disproven by science today. Some of the Hunebedden are still known by their specific names, such as Steenbergen and the Bapelose Kerk, but most are listed only under cryptic numbers. The numbering system was established by the Dutch scientist Van Giffen. He assigned every Hunebed a number, counting from north to south, and a letter that indicates the region of its location. Another riddle to solve was the origin of the stones, as they are most similar to rocks found in Scandinavia. In our early days, another color dominated the scene. We can still remember it, the beginning, when there was only white, and we traveled from the far north together with the eternal ice. And when the ice retreated, they came, those who call themselves human. They tried to shape us, to sculpt us, bringing us together stacked up high, and ever since we have stood and watched. The Hunebed builders lived approximately 5,000 years before us, during the late Neolithicum, and belonged to the Hunebedden culture, which got its name from the shape of pottery they produced. They mostly were farmers. In the early days, they came often to pay us a visit. With offerings in their hands, in groups they gathered, surrounding us. Their songs and dances echoed through the air, and sometimes they placed some of their kind among us, where, over time, they became one with the soil. Now these have been long forgotten by their own kind. Only we still remember the many souls we encountered. Standing here, I can't help but think of all the people who have visited this place throughout the centuries. There is something magical and deeply grounding about walking the same earth as so many humans before me. The stones feel like a connection across time, holding memories like shadows of the past. They are able to tell many stories about those humans that lived 5,000 years ago. Their lives too were filled with emotion. They were people who laughed together, probably sharing a meal after a long day of skilled handiwork. They had their traditions and festivities, just as we have ours. And their lives were also marked by milestones like birth or death. And that's what the Hunebedden were most likely built for, a place for remembering, where they buried and mourned their beloved with a lot of effort and care. So, I don't think we're so different after all. And finding what connects us made me realize what it means to be a human. In these days, we mostly slumber. The singing and dancing is gone, but sometimes one still comes. And now and then, a warm hand brushes past our surfaces, a faint trace of the old connection to those humans. And whatever happens, we will continue to watch. Maybe we should visit the stones more often. I think places like these can remind us of what we are, beautiful and intricate creatures, still embedded in our culture and dependent on the same nature, even though we tend to forget that. But the stones will still be there during the next 1,000 years to tell this everlasting story about the meaning of being human. We just have to be quiet enough to listen.